Okay, Dave Neville here, joined by the legend Roger Cleveland, aka RFC. How are you, Raj?
I'm well, thank you. Great to be here.
We are excited to talk about the all-new Jaws full toe wedge. Every shot in full control. I know this is one that you're really proud of. We've been working on it a long time, but the impetus for this wedge goes all the way back to the PM grind. It goes all the way back to Valhalla. Can you tell that story quickly about your work with PM with Phil Mickelson?
Well, Phil put in, we watched the Darrow survey a lot, and so Phil put in a ping, and I value my job, and so I reached out to him, and he said, I really like the high toe, and so I took a wedge, cut it in half, welded on a top section, and it was this big clunky thing, and I took a Sharpie and ground the shape in, and had to take weight off that we added, and so I wanted to show it to him. I wanted to show the progress of this, okay? And so we shafted it up, we took it, and we got it to him at the PGA at Valhalla a few years ago, and we got it, he was waiting for it, and we got it Monday. And he took it out Monday afternoon. He was about to leave the course, and right at Valhalla, this little green is next to the practice putting green. And there were pros there, they're practicing, and he started hitting these shots out of rough, full shots that would go 10 feet and then dribble down to the pin. And there were spectators on the other side of this green, and I thought, he's swinging so hard, if he mishit it, he's going to take one of them out, okay? But all the guys from the putting green started coming around and watching this, and he put on a clinic. So that was the genesis of the PM, which was very successful, and successful on the tour.
Yeah, and so we decided to commercialize this almost Frankenstein type of wedge. We made the original PM grind, very successful for us, and a lot of companies copied us as well. We can say that as well. And then we had the PM19, and Phil kind of went even, he wanted to go a little bit more extreme on that one.
Well, that's what Phil wants to do, but not everybody shared that opinion, and so it is what it is. So,
and so,
but in the background,
yeah,
we always wanted to do something again like the original PM, I think.
Yeah, taking what we learned from the original PM, but making it something that was more maybe palatable to the eye commercially and for the tour players as well. So we have the all new Jaws full toe. So how did you do that? What's kind of different about this?
Well, we went the opposite way. We actually took and we reduced the offset, so it makes it really easy to align for people. We still have the tight radius on the sole. There's a trick there, and we filled in the par area where people don't like a lot of they can't line up a lot of tight radius on the leading edge, so we straightened it out. We also learned about CG and spin, and we added the micro features all the way across, and we have a sole that's a modified C grind that we incorporated. It's beautiful. It's an elegant piece.
So really taking all the things that we learned from Jaws MD5, combining it with PM,
yep,
and coming out with this new, that's why I wanted to call it Jaws, but we also had the full toe in this as well. So this wedge, I'm super excited about it. I know you guys have been working hard, a really premium wedge as well. I know you're a busy man,
well,
so
I think we're going to get some tour play with this.
You think so?
I think this is going to be more popular than we think.
Okay.
Beautiful piece.
Awesome. So I'm going to let you jump back out on tour, and I'm going to beam you back
Please.
to the shop, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Jaws full toe. Thanks,
Good.
Roger.
Thank you.
So we beamed Roger out, and we beamed in Patrick Dawson, our Senior Manager of R&D for Wedges. Good to have you here, Patrick.
Love being here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So I know this is one that we're really proud of. We got a lot to cover. This thing is packed with technology, so much so that we really had to put it into three categories.
Yeah.
We talk about spin, as this thing is a true spin machine, the versatility and control with this wedge, and then also the trajectory control that we can get. But it all starts with spin.
Yeah.
It's an absolute spin machine. There's four key categories that are going to really help this thing spin more than any other wedge that we've ever created. Let's start with the raw face, because this is something new for us.
Yeah, Dave, we really pulled out all the stops for this one. So starting at the top of it, raw face, we know from our testing that raw face spins the most in any kind of condition that we've got. So we worked with our suppliers to make sure that we could still do the chroming steps, but then not have the chrome on the face. So we can expose all of the features of the metal and all the roughness to the ball when the ball impacts.
It's kind of like the best of both worlds, because a lot of people say, I don't really like the look of the wedge getting rusty. So you have that chrome look, but on the face you got maximum spin.
Yeah.
And then we have the Jaws groove, the
Yes.
most aggressive groove. You're combining that with the offset groove and groove. So what does that do for us?
Yeah, so what's wonderful about the Jaws groove, of course, sharpest groove in golf. It's the best, the most aggressive groove that we can make. And then we took the offset groove and groove that we had from the previous PM grind and then put that on. Combined together, they create lots of little points of gripping the ball to actually spin it more.
And so talk a little bit about offset groove and groove specifically. You've got these angled micros. So as you get closer to the green, how does that help you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of one of the things that where the main grooves, when you have the club playing in the playing position, the main grooves take over most of it. But then as soon as you get closer to the green, players tend to open up the club. Well, we looked at it and went, well, can't we angle some of our grooves so that then now those grooves are now perpendicular to the shot plane? And that's where the offset groove and groove came from. And so this club very naturally is played open, square, in a lot of different positions. So yeah, when you get close to the green and for those real touch shots, faces open, those offset grooves and grooves are actually more perpendicular to the ball during impact, and it just spins more that way.
Then, of course, grooves all the way across the face. So no matter where you hit it, you're getting spin, because we know around the green, hitting shots out of the rough, you might hit it high up there, so you're going to get that spin and check. I mean, this thing really is the ultimate spin machine with the Jaws full toe. Yeah. Then we have the versatility and control. The shaping, Roger talked a little bit about it, but you guys worked really, really hard on the shaping. So talk about what you did with the leading edge and the toe peak and all of that to make it a little bit more pleasing to the eye.
Absolutely. So we saw, obviously we broke great ground with the original PM grind, the PM grind 2, and it's a very unique shape that players really gravitate towards. So then we took a step back and said, well, maybe there's some other areas that we can investigate that might be more traditional wedge look, but take some of the features of the high toe, of the toe peak, and try and put that into a wedge that we think will be more broadly accepted by even more golfers. Along with that, the younger players on tour start to really prefer straighter leading edges, coming down from the hosel, appearance of less offset. And so we put all of those together in the wedge with Roger's help to make it look like this.
And then you've got this specialized C grind, kind of a modified C grind, but to make it really, really playable when you open it up.
Absolutely. It's one of my personal favorite C grinds. Is I don't tend to play a C grind because it's generally too low bounce for me, but these C grinds are best. We add just a little bit more length in the sole width, a little bit more angle. It's probably the most forgiving C grind and most approachable by every golfer.
Yeah, so that's why we're calling it a specialized C grind, because it's not that really low, 6 to 8 degrees of bounce. It's more of a mid bounce, and then when you open it up, you're adding bounce. So very playable out of the bunker here.
Absolutely. It's one of those things like it's super playable. It's easy to hit full shots with. It's still easy to hit those open face shots. You're not going to dig, and you're not going to bounce it straight off the turf. It's really great for all players.
Then the third piece is this idea of controlled trajectory. So one of the feedbacks we had from the previous PM grind was for full shots, it was more of a specialty club for shorter shots, and players struggle a little bit with the full shot. So how do we address that? And then how do we work on really bringing that trajectory down so you're going to have that sort of little bit lower launch with tons of spin?
It's kind of natural with the high toe already. You tend to get a CG that's a little bit higher. And then we extend out that pad where it says the Callaway logo on the back. That's a little bit thicker, bringing the CG up. I had alluded to earlier that this club's played a lot kind of open. What tends to happen when you open the club, your impact location starts to move towards the toe. So to move that CG even more towards the toe, we then drilled out those 4 weight ports in the back. If you look, the heel one is the deepest and biggest, and then they progressively get shallower as you go out to the toe to try and kind of get that CG just kind of nudge it out towards the toe a little bit.
Yeah, and I think not only is it a great technology, it's a very visible technology. You can see the Jaws toe pad, very, very visible. Yeah. And when you look at the weight ports, you can really see the difference in the depth. So I think this is going to really, really pop at retail and really show that visible technology. It's going to help control the trajectory. Let's take a look at the comparison of the two shapes. I mean, this is dramatic here.
Yes,
I think we're really, really pleased with the new shape of the Jaws full toe.
Absolutely, and it goes to that the Jaws full toe is almost more like a standard wedge, and just with the kind of accentuated higher toe, little bit taller par, again, straighter leading edge. And all those things kind of make it, when you put it down, you go, oh, this looks like a wedge to me. It's closer to a real wedge than a PM was. Okay, you put it down, you're like, oh, I get this has a purpose.
Yeah.
This one is much more versatile in that.
Yeah, I think the versatility in that, it's going to work really well around the greens, but if you have an 80, 90-yard shot, you're not going to be afraid to hit it, or it's not going to turn off your eye there.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, we looked at the performance of this wedge. I mean, I think my eyes popped out of my head on this robot testing. There's a lot of info up on this slide, but just summarize the testing. Jaws full toe going up against Jaws MD5, which had the most spin of any wedge we've ever created.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was really, really dramatic.
I mean, we love the results when they come back like this. It almost makes our job that much easier. But with the raw face, offset groove and groove, the Jaws grooves themselves, grooves across the face. We stacked the deck in our favor. But yeah, it spun great. A lot more, 1,000 RPM on one of the shots.
Yeah.
And that equates to a lot more stopping power, especially when you're shorter, those shorter shots, those touch shots where you really need that ball to have consistent spin and consistent reaction on the green, and that's what this one provides.
So you're seeing an advantage on full shots, you're seeing it on pitch shots, you're seeing it in the dry condition, you're seeing it in the wet condition, both finishes as well. So pretty much any type of test we put out there, we were seeing more spin in different varying levels, but up to 1,100 RPM more on full shots out of the wet condition. And this is dramatic. I mean, you're talking about 8 to 10 feet closer to the flag when you have 1,100 RPM.
Absolutely. Yeah, that much extra spin just means the ball's going to bite that much quicker and stop that much sooner.
So amazing, amazing results. Jaws MD5, still great spin on that. Jaws full toe kind of taking that to the next level.
Yeah.
We're starting with the sand wedge and going all the way up to the 64, but it is a pretty broad lineup. We have the righties and lefties covered here. We got multiple finishes. I think we really got something for everybody. Talk about why we went 12 degrees of bounce on the sand versus 10 on the lobbers.
Absolutely. So, generally the sand wedges, when they're played in the sand, you need just a little bit more bounce, generally 2 degrees more, because you're hitting down into the sand. And the whole idea with the technique is you just kind of throw the club down at the ground, and the bounce works for you to help get that ball up out of the sand. And it's very typical, even in all of our rest of our wedges. Typically the sand wedges have more bounce than a corresponding gap or lob that go before it and after it.
Yeah, so kind of a mid bounce with 10 degrees, but you have that C grind, going to still be really easy to hit flop shots. That's what people always talked about on the PM grind.
Yeah.
You can still do that. Tons of options here. In terms of the components, really premium components. We brought the spinner shaft back, but it's a different version of the spinner. The previous version, some people didn't like the look of the accordion shape, so this is giving you kind of all the benefits of the spinner in more kind of a traditional shape. We also took feedback from our reps and fitters on the Catalyst, the graphite version. So we have a stock graphite version, wedge flex, so it's no longer that kind of stiff flex, it's more of a wedge flex, and so that's going to be a lighter weight option. And then a really premium lambkin UTX grip. So this thing pretty much, it's got the kitchen sink. It has everything in one wedge.
And we love doing that with the PM series as our place to play. And this is a great showcase for this kind of technology. Is everything we want to do or want to try can go into this, and it's turned out really great.
In terms of how we activate this, we're going to have a full launch plan, just kind of showing you the look and feel. The tagline here is every shot in full control. We're going to talk about that spin machine. We're going to talk about the raw face. We're going to talk about the playability, the versatility, compare it to the Jaws MD5. So I think we're going to have a great marketing plan for this. Callaway Customs is going to be a part of that. We have even more zones. We have new stamps. The Boone stamp is in here, the beer stamp, the bomb stamp, the paw. We got everything on the Callaway Customs. You can fully pimp out this wedge however you like. So that is it. That is the new Jaws full toe. Thank you so much, Patrick. Amazing job for your team. The Jaws full toe, every shot in full control.